You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Well, that's a little bit more organised, isn't it?
I mean, it's only voiceover work.
Who is that guy? I mean, I tell you what, I wish we could get him on the show, right?
Honestly,
he
sounds professional.
Well done, Ted.
Wait till you hear the outro.
Oh, listen, I've cheated. I've listened to it.
I thought you might.
Welcome along to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast. And this is great because it's the big day. The first big day of the season for these guys. Rye is like a kid at Christmas. Ted, very cool, calm and composed. It is the Derbysh, as we christened it last season. So I think it's only right we start with that. Kick off, of course, at 12:30 on Sky. So those Newcastle fans who would like to sit and watch this and not have any concerns or worries, just have a laugh along, can watch the game unfold. Sunderland against Borough. So let's go first, Ted. You're the host. First of all, let's get this clarified. Is this a derby, Ted?
For me personally, and I'll get ratified by a lot of Sunderland fans because they don't agree with me on this one, I think it is a derby. It's just not the derby. That's the way I see it. That's my own personal reflection. I know Regis Labrise has already said that he doesn't class it as a derby. Yes, but as Rye was very quick to point out on social media, that's about the third manager we've had in as many games against Middlesbrough. So, what does he know yet? But yeah, it is a derby, mate. It's just not the one. I suppose the Geordies would probably classify this as El Drastico.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. You were doing well to keep your mouth shut there, Rye. Actually, I was waiting for you to jump in. I could see his face. That's the beauty of not being on radio anymore. Is it a derby, Rye? Simple question.
Yeah, it is 100% for us. We play Sunderland obviously a lot more than we see Newcastle, just given the difference in leagues and stuff like that. It's our closest team rival. I see a lot of Borough fans talking about it, and I think one thing that we've always sort of prided ourselves on is that we see it as a bigger game. And if Sunderland don't, then that's fine because Middlesbrough are going into it a bit more pumped up, and we definitely see it as a crosstown rival. Whether it's Newcastle, whether it's Sunderland, there's a bit of added flair. No matter what you want to say, there's a lot of Middlesbrough fans that know a Mackem, know a Geordie, and whenever one of our three clubs play, it means a lot. It has to mean something more. And as Ted rightly put out, I did say on Twitter that Regis Labrise, who?
Manager of the month, mate. Manager of the month.
And manager of the month. But dear me. We've often talked about it being a poison chalice. I did back Sunderland to win last weekend. We criticised as well in our previous show last season. We criticised quite rightly Wayne Rooney. How on earth did that happen last week? Wayne Rooney got his win, which he's been desperately craving. And the Sunderland, who got off to such a good start, Ted. What went wrong?
Yeah, I honestly don't think that was a case of Plymouth winning the match. It was a case of Sunderland losing the match.
Rooney!
The second half, in particular, was sloppy. We chased the game a little bit. That we weren't as clinical as what we had been. I think Dan Neil had a pretty poor game, and he needs to have a big game today, a really big game. I thought we were a bit powder puff in midfield. There wasn't the same sort of edge to the game as what there had been. We definitely missed Alan Brown, and of course Alan Brown won't be playing today. So, like I say, Dan Neil really does need to step it up. He owes us a performance for what happened last season at the Stadium of Light when he was disgracefully sent off by an Aussie crook. But it's. I'm being honest. It was just a couple of off days. I think Anthony Patterson, who started the season brilliantly, he was maybe at fault for one of the goals as well. So it was just a little bit of untidiness, a blip more than anything. Look, it was Plymouth's cup final. Let's be honest. They're a tiny club on the south coast. They're a nothing club. That was a big game for them. And yeah, they took it. They played it like a cup final. We'll take it as an away defeat and we'll absolutely smash them at home.
So the wheels haven't come off.
No.
Right.
Shout out to right.
No.
Middlesbrough last weekend, hard-earned point against Preston. And I guess when you look at the table, today's game is more important for you guys than it is for Sunderland. I mean, you win today. You win this game at Sunderland today, which you're capable of doing on a good day for Borough. You're only a point behind them. So, you know, how tight the league is. But, yeah, what was your take on last week's game, right?
You summed it up perfectly. Frustration. I went out and is Ted's camera working? He might have just got blurry for me there. If we could just, can we reset Ted's cam for us quickly?
Yeah, hold on. I'll do that now. Hold on. We'll go.
Who is this guy? Where's my Geordie fans? Get on out. Join the Smoggies today, please.
Oh, hang on. No. None of that. None of that.
It's a Geordie day today for us. You know, share the hate for Mackems. Yeah, look, it was frustrating. Paul Heckenbottom, manager now of Preston, came out to foul us. There was 22 fouls to 3. There was 8 yellow cards, I apologize, to Preston by the end of the game. It was the most frustrating game I have ever watched in such a long time. The Preston game plan was to frustrate us, was to defend, was to, professional foul left, right, and center, and that's all they went and did. And it was really, really frustrating. So we had a good goal. We let a cheap goal in. And then that was it. There was not really anything. We had this, the XG, like all the stats will tell you, our XG was through the roof. The amount of chances we created, we just could not put it in the back of the net. And, I created a little song on social media about not being able to put it in the back of the net because it's literally the story of our season. We're just creating so many chances. But of course, if they don't go in, then, it doesn't matter, does it? So frustrating day. It's been the story of our season. We've had frustrating games against Portsmouth, frustrating games against Derby, frustrating games, against Preston as well. So I'm not sure if teams have figured out the Carrick play style, but we're still creating a lot of chances. A lot of us think that if it clicks, it's going to click in a big way because we're creating 30 to 40 chances, good chances, but geez, we just cannot get the ball across that line at the moment.
Okay, I mean, I'll talk Newcastle a bit now. I was down at Wolves. I was down at Wolves last week. It's a happy hunting ground for us at the moment. We're always picking something up there, and we didn't play particularly well last weekend, but we managed to scrape the win. Some good parts of the game. The first 20 minutes, Newcastle dominated, but then the going to goal down, it just seems to be part of our makeup at the minute to do that. It seems to, to make us want to, change things, etc. And Eddie Howe was brave. He came out last week and he made those changes, 3 changes at half time, and it changed the game. And I think we're probably, as a fan base, a lot of people criticising Newcastle for what they did or how they played. We didn't give Wolves enough credit. They didn't play with a high line last week. Newcastle then obviously had to change the way that they played, had to change the formation. You've got to give them credit. We're playing away from home at a place where it tends to be 1-1. And we've come away with a 2-1 win with 2 wonderful goals, Fabian Schär, slightly lucky with his deflection, but he's a centre-half who scores goals. 50 goals that guy scored as a centre-half. It's quite remarkable. And most of them are pearlers. And then the goal that won it, Harvey Barnes loves to cut in, as he's told people this week, and bang, top corner, top bins, wonderful finish. And Newcastle deserved winners, I felt, at the end of the game, did enough to win it. Puts us in the 3rd place, and a really interesting, weekend now lies ahead of us. Newcastle going to Fulham, where they've unbeaten in 5, and could potentially, if they win today, be a bit of a bogey team for Fulham. We'll have won 3 times there this year. We'll beat them in the FA Cup 2-0. We'll beat them in the league in April 1-0. And if we can win again today, then that's a perfect hat trick. And that puts Newcastle United top of the league because Manchester City and Arsenal play tomorrow. And as I've jokingly said on NUFC Matters, but it is possible, should they draw tomorrow, Newcastle will be top for the week and then get a chance next weekend to extend the lead at the top of the Premier League against Man City. I know, I'm dreaming. But
yes. Yeah, it could happen.
We found a way, lads. We have found a way, and I know you guys have watched it. So, Ted, I'll come to you first. Newcastle have just found a way this season of winning ugly and winning games away from home, which they wouldn't have won. They've only conceded 3 goals. You can't say that the games that they've played have been easy games either. But from my perspective, it's great to see. And although some fans would still twist on 21 as far as Newcastle are concerned, some fans would twist it. But when the entire season unbeaten, won the Premier League, they'll still say, "Oh, but they didn't win it the way that I wanted them to win it." It's a great start for Newcastle. You can't make any bones about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, one thing that really struck me was the style of the goals as well. I mean, 2 absolutely superb strikes to win it. So it kind of gets rid of that necessity to have Isaac ready all the time. I think you've got goals that can. You've got players that can get goals from anywhere. Whether it be midfielders, whether you've got defenders who chip in with goals, and that's important. If you're going to, like you say, win ugly and win those games where it's tight, where it's edgy, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's what you need, and it's a good habit to get into. I think the growing into the season, like you say, I still don't think they've hit their top form yet. I don't think they've hit that sort of attacking, pressing style that I know Eddie Howe prefers to play. But I suppose that goes in hand with a lot of injuries that he picked up last season as well. So it's maybe a little bit of a shift in mentality from Newcastle United. But yeah, I watched the game. I'm not going to lie, I'd had about 6 or 7 cocktails by that point. So I only just remember the goals going in. It was a great afternoon out. but yeah, I remember Dr. Mick shouting and jumping up and down, and that's basically all I can remember of the game. I know you scored 2 great goals. That's what stuck in my mind. There you go.
I'm not presenting the show naked, Ian, if we win today. No, not at all. Right, Newcastle.
Easy. Yeah, no, it was good. Honestly, you found a way. With all the talk, all the focus was on a failure in the transfer window, but it was easy to forget how good Newcastle team still is, even without making massive signings. With the boost of Tonali coming back in, Harvey Barnes coming off the bench, what a start to the season he had. Anthony Gordon as well. I mean, going to be maybe one of the most lucrative deals that you've ever seen, and deserves it from the performances he's putting in. And then you've got probably the worry for me now is Isaac. Is he out? Because I mean, where does that leave you? Because he's just such a focal point up front for Newcastle United. And then do we fall back? What's next? What's their sort of thing? Is it the young Sheffield United talent that came through? So yeah, look, it's just about keeping that squad fit. And when they are fit, it's an impressive squad. That's a Champions League team. We don't, easy to forget, Champions League team that was there last season and beat Milan in their own backyard. So when it's fit, it's very impressive. And I think it was easy to forget for most of the Premier League that squad still there is top 5, even with, and now they've got a fully fit squad as well without the injuries. It's still dangerous. So I think teams are sort of maybe easily forgetting that. And I think it's a really good time for Newcastle to strike this season because of the looming court case we hear of the Man City boys. And then look, you take that into account. Maybe that comes into play this season, and Newcastle could quite easily see themselves in the top 2, if not top 3.
Yeah, you mentioned Man City there, right? So why don't you continue with that? Barry's asked a question. He says, guys, the 2 fans of clubs other than Newcastle, what do you think of the farce that is all the charges against Man City? It's laughable. I mean, it started now, right? It started this week, the case.
Yep.
We're led to believe it could take anything up to 10 weeks. But this really is going to be an interesting thing. We did a show together last year, and we were talking about this. Didn't have any idea that it would still be waiting for a result on it, but we are coming to an end, I think.
Yeah, look, it's going to change the landscape of football forever. Yeah. If this outcome is as devastating as we think and predict, it is going to send tidal waves through our league from top to bottom forever. You're going to see, you know, one of the biggest stories I think I will ever see in my lifetime, maybe in football. I'm not too sure. Maybe something else will come in. But to see a club, I mean, we're talking about, I mean, when Everton got docked 12 points, I think it was 4 charges, maybe 5 charges, correct me if I'm wrong, that were found, and they got docked 12 points for 4 charges. Man City have 115. Even if they get off 80% of them, it is still a mammoth amount. And I think it's going to be monumental. And I honestly think it needs to, if they're going to set the precedent, if you know, because there are other clubs out there that are threatening, you know, or have been threatening, you know, to break the bank because they just don't think there is, you know, punishment out there. You know, we could see them being expelled from football altogether. And what, you know, it's Man City who have, you know, won everything in the past couple of years. And what does that mean for all the other clubs that it's affected along the way? Right. We've say, Man City, you have potentially done the wrong thing. What about the teams then that got relegated because they lost to Man City? Well, you know, it's just this whole crazy, you know, opening of the floodgates if it happens. I'm very, very interested to see. I honestly think the book needs to be thrown at them because we need to, if they're going to do it, they need to set the precedent. It's 115 charges. You've punished Everton. You've punished Nottingham Forest. Newcastle, prime example, had to sell 2 pretty good young and up-and-coming talents just, you know, to do the right thing. You know what I mean? Right in our backyard, Northeast football, they had to do the right thing and did it. Let 2 stars, they probably wanted to keep, you know what I mean? And to come under, where Man City are over there, you know, with the likes of Erling Haaland, just, you know, it's just crazy. So one to watch, massive news. That'll change not only the Premier League, Teddy boy, but I think even our league as well.
Yeah, I think the danger is here. I mean, great that it's finally started, because to be honest, I didn't think it would ever even get into court. I thought they would just hire enough lawyers or enough heavyweight lawyers just to keep on kicking this down the road forever and a day. So great, it's actually finally started. But as somebody's already mentioned in there, I've lost a comment now. It's things like retrials that'll just go on for years and years. We might never see the end of this. It could be 5 or 6 years down the line before we see an actual resolution of it. I just have my doubts. I just have my doubts that anything will seriously get done about it, lads. I think money talks at the end of the day. I think they will get some sort of, whether it's a fine, whether it's some sort of points deduction, but I don't think that the Premier League or any court has actually got the minerals to give them the full whack of what technically should be coming to them with 115 charges. With that, you're looking at, you know, a possible 300-point deduction to start the season. Or what do? Do you drop them down to the League Two? Do you put them in non-league? It's a weird situation. But you know what? It's you've got them doing that sort of thing. But a little thing that caught my eye was Birmingham City going out and spending like up to £15 million on a striker in League One.
Yeah.
You've kind of got, it raises an eyebrow of going, hang on, there's clubs in the Championship not able to afford that. Borough couldn't do it. Sunderland couldn't do it. Not a chance. And you just think like it's rife in a lot of places. We mentioned about Hull City, who had a good game last night, really good turnaround against Stoke City 3-1. Hull City were another one where there's questions raised there with the likes of them, West Brom. Everyone's just trying, or not everyone, sorry, no. A lot of clubs are trying to push their luck and see how far they can get away with it. And I think that's because of the fact that Man City have largely been untouchable up to this point. Hopefully, I do stress, hopefully, it's a watershed moment for football. And you know, we're seeing an end to this, and we're seeing an end to it at all levels. And you know, I'm talking about Birmingham City as well, because I kind of stand them. Yeah, I just have my doubts. I just have my doubts about it, lads. I think the powerful suits will talk, and they'll win eventually.
Barry's asking me, says, as a Newcastle fan, which way do you hope the decision goes? Look, I want fairness. That's what I want. Yeah. I want to see everybody treated the same. I want to see a level playing field. I want to see Newcastle United given the opportunity, and other teams given the opportunity to challenge what we used to call the top six. But Manchester City, if they've done something wrong, need to be punished. And exactly the same as Everton were, exactly the same as Nottingham Forest were. So, I just want justice, Barry. And if they are innocent, then they're innocent, and that's it. I'd like to see it sorted out now. I get where Ted's coming from when he says, he thinks that there could be appeals and this, that, and the other. I'm more of the mindset that, there'll be some kind of agreement. I think there'll be some kind of resolve to this. I think that they'll go through the whole hearing, and I think there'll be an agreement, and I think there'll be a target agreed. It'll be heavy enough to, for people to say, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what should have happened. If they're wrong, if they've done wrong, of course. But I don't think we'll have a situation where it drags on. I don't think they'll do that, because it's damaging for the Premier League's brand. And that's the big thing. But they'll want to make sure that justice is done. What they can't afford is to give them a slap on the wrist, give them a financial fine when they've given Everton and Nottingham Forest points deductions.
Yeah.
Borough points deductions when they didn't field the team, etc., etc. So there is a precedent set. And my mindset early doors with what Ted was saying was, God, imagine if they got found guilty of 115 charges, then that's, that's ridiculous amount of points. They'll be be playing Gateshead. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That we know that's not going to happen. But we may see them get 25, 30 points deduction on the worst case scenario if they were found guilty of lots of charges. But that still wouldn't see them relegated. Manchester City would still stay up. All it would happen is it would be a knock-on effect. They wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to compete in the Champions League. They wouldn't be in the Champions League. Financially, that would cost them. It would be interesting to see who then sticks around. Does Pep Guardiola stay? Does the players stay? It would be so interesting to see what happens. And Tufnell in the chat says, what kind of butterfly effect could there be having one of the richest brands in the world of football in the lower leagues? Was there any ripple effect on the Scottish League when Rangers were relegated? And I forgot about that. Rangers were
they were.
You say, what you go from one of the richest brands in world football to the Scottish Premier League, which is like.
But I guess
that's the precedent.
Yeah. Rangers are huge in Scotland. They're huge in global football. They're mainly down to the fact that they get so many, they get huge crowds, etc. But they just haven't been successful because of the state that Scottish football's in. But and Barry quite rightly points out, Juventus were pushed down 3 leagues. But they came straight back.
I was going to say exactly that. I mean, and that the thing that the precedent here as well is that, okay, it's a Premier League team in Man City. I completely understand, and it's an English football. But would it open up, again, questions from other leagues where we see League One in France? We got clubs going under. You know what I mean? We got like Bordeaux, who have just, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold this week looking to buy a League One team. Do you know what I mean? Because they are just that financially stricken, in France. You know what I mean? And then you've got a team over in Man City who have probably bought players from these clubs. Do you know what I mean? And have they done it unfairly? Do you know what I mean? And there's so many more stories than just the 115 charges to Man City that I think raises so many more questions for me, because it's not just them that's affected. Of course, they're going to cop the brunt of it, but it just, for me, from a legal or whatever standpoint it is, it opens up so many highways into different directions, into other leagues. I mean, Sandro Tonali, Newcastle fans, he was punished for something he didn't do in his time at Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? And we saw ripple of effects that stroke into your club. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to think with Man City, is that this ripple will not just be in the Premier League. It'll be down to League Two, I think, and it will be also across to the other Europe leagues as well.
Kevin asking if Newcastle will face any charges. I mean, at the moment, I would imagine not, Kevin. But I guess some people are suggesting that the deal that we did with Forest for the goalkeeper and, Anderson going the other way could be looked at. But, if it's within the rules, then of course they won't. But at the moment, I don't think so. That's why Newcastle have been so frugal with their spends in the transfer windows, because ultimately they don't want to get caught out because they feel that the punishment wouldn't fit the crime if Newcastle did it because of the Saudi ownership.
They're doing the right thing.
Yeah, of course they are. Of course they are. Big thanks to everybody watching. 177 across all 3 platforms.
Woo!
Which is
Class
great.
up.
We don't take it for granted, and it is something a little bit different. Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough fans all sitting on a platform. So thank you very much for that. And don't forget, you jump on to Invictus today at 12:15 on YouTube. We will be continuing the debate this afternoon. We're watching the match. We're going to do a match day live, which we have done before. I'm going to go on and referee.
Yeah,
I've agreed to referee. So if you are looking for an alternative match commentary for the Sunderland Middlesbrough derby this afternoon, then please jump on to Invictus and
massive game.
Give it a watch. Give him a subscribe as well. He is a good lad and well worth watching. And UFC Matters fans.
Or if you want a bit of lad, I'm also putting it on my YouTube channel.
There you go.
I've upgraded the Zoom and everything. Tell you honestly,
look at him go. I told you one day he would become professional. Steve, our little butterfly was. He's gonna one day that cocoon was gonna.
Well, we've got one of our every now and then we chuck a section in there when each of us take a turn to present. So it's my turn this week with my little section. Yep, it's Troll of the Week, which is making a welcome return to this platform, my platform, NUFC Matters, because we used to do it on our show on a Friday night, but we put it to one side. We decided we'd had enough mischief, but it's good to bring it back once every 3 weeks to Three's a Crowd. And I'll be picking on tweets on X, which are football related. So first up, this one from Just Saints. Ben Brayton Diaz looking like he's won a competition to play in a professional football match. Really unimpressive so far.
That's brutal.
It is brutal, yeah. So that's the kind of thing we're looking for. So if you do see them, send them to me or send them to Ted or send them to Rye. We'll filter through, and in 3 weeks' time, when I'm next presenting, we'll feature them as well. This one was a winner for me by a country mile. They don't have to be football related, but if they are, please send them to us. Taylor Swift endorses Kamala Harris. Brian Steele commented, that makes sense because 90% of her songs are about choosing the wrong person anyway. If you've got a Troll of the Week, please send it to us so we can play the cat, which I know Julie enjoys.
So good. Right. So
I do like that piano.
He's very good. He's a good cat. He's good on the organ, the cat. Jonathan Shaw. He asked this question earlier, and I think this is a great question for our long show. He said, when do we think there will be 3 of us in the Premier League again? I can't remember the last time that was, but I'd like it to return, Ted. It's a good
16,
question.
17, Teddy boy, wasn't
really
it?
good. Sorry?
16, 17?
Yeah, I think it was the last time. Yeah. But all 3 of us, I think we'll see it in the next 2 to 3 seasons, where all 3 of us will be back in the Premier League. I think, I'll give a little bit of respect to Middlesbrough now, just before we get into the live game and all that sort of thing, because that's when that respect totally stops. Yes, 100%.
No, true.
You should see the other signs I've got written out.
It's going to be like Subterranean Homesick Blues with Bob Dylan.
Or Love Actually, yeah. Just say it was carol singers, right? No, listen, I think Middlesbrough have got a good side. Rye's already said it. I think I might have been, when we were chatting earlier on, was they've got balance in the side and they've got a bit of depth about it now. They haven't got off to the greatest of starts of the season. Everyone's aware of that. No more than Middlesbrough fans, I guess. They would have thought there would have been a few more points on the board by now. And arguably there should have been. I think they were kind of unlucky in a way that they got 2 of the newly promoted sides quite early on, which were just kind of like Middlesbrough in the Championship they're a big pull. It's a game that lower down teams will look at and kind of go, relish this, we'll go to a nice stadium, and it is a nice stadium, the Riverside. I know I pull it to bits at times, like it just doesn't get many people in. But yeah, it's I honestly think Middlesbrough will come good by the end of the season. I still fancy them for playoff positions. I really do. I think there's a couple of decent, strong sides in there that might just pip the first two places. I think we'll be in those playoffs as well. I'll be very surprised if we can keep that kind of intensity up in our game all season. There's work to do in the January transfer window that I've been told has actually already started, which is great to hear. I think we just need a couple of bits of backup, so to speak. Other than that, listen, if not this season, then certainly by next one or the one after that, I reckon both Sunderland and Middlesbrough will be back in the Premier League. No danger about that whatsoever.
Yeah, I can't see it being too much longer. We're obviously both heading in the right direction. Sustainability wise, Sunderland are taking this more youth approach. Middlesbrough have kind of turned over that leaf in recent years as well, where we've kind of gone, and we've got an excellent recruitment team now together who are trying to buy that youth sort of thing as well. And honestly, I think both clubs, when you look at the championship at a whole, even though they're fake, the attendances at the Stadium of Light are insane. That's not, championship levels. Middlesbrough's turnout, we're selling out away grounds, even down to Plymouth. So the level of support we've got across the Northeast just bleeds football. No matter where you are from the Northeast, it's all football. And that, the Premier League is where all three clubs eventually belong. And then, the hardest thing is the longer we're out, the bigger the gap becomes between, jumping up as well. But I truly believe that, once, we can get up, that, I hope and pray that we can stay up and give it a right shake, because it's where we belong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I missed the derbies against Sunderland and Middlesbrough. I know a lot of Newcastle fans don't call it a derby when we play Middlesbrough, but the Sunderland one is obviously the most important one to us. But it would be great to have all three teams back in the Premier League. And I mean, there's been a couple of false dawns over the last couple of years. That's been the problem. There's been some playoff defeats, etc. And it's been disappointing. And of course, prior to the takeover, Newcastle were the same as Middlesbrough and Sunderland. They were a yo-yo team. Teams which ultimately would be in the Premier League, would be the whipping boy, and then back down. So it's we're holding our place in the Premier League. Can't see us dropping any time soon. So we'll keep the Premiership berth warm for you, and hopefully see both sides soon. Moving on from Northeast football slightly, just want to talk to you about the potential strike, Rye, in the Premier League. I can't believe this. We're hearing players coming out and saying that they could potentially go on strike. I mean, what's the first thing that comes into your mind when you hear that?
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I try and take the sort of the position here of trying to look at it from their point of view as well. Obviously, Rodri, you would think he's probably going to go close to the Ballon d'Or, the next couple of seasons, but he's the one obviously driving that. They're playing too many games. But as a working class man, going to work and having to do overtime to put food and bread and water on the table and stuff like that, it's not uncouth for the average, man, wherever they are based in this world, to have to put in a lot of hours to put money and food on the table. And it's just this sort of, I think that's where it comes, where you're getting paid to play football. And look, I completely agree. Maybe and I try and look at it now, well, if I'm good enough to play football, but you're breaking me, then maybe I do need a break. But when you're at that level, when and everyone wants to be at that level, I think you're getting paid well enough to that. And let's remind ourselves as well, like for Rodri, right? I get that backing up Saturday and a Tuesday and a Thursday and all that is a lot of football. I completely get that. But let's not for 1 minute think that you're going down in the back of a ute down to, to play, for, against Newcastle United. Do you know what I mean? Let's not think that when you have to go and play Champions League in Europe, that they're putting you on a dodgy jet. You know what I mean? In cattle class up the back roads. You know what I mean? Here's your first class. You've got masseuses. You've got everything there. When you land, you've got straight into recovery and all that sort of stuff. So I think, and you know what? I think if you have a look at the opposite side, let's take a club in Middlesbrough at the moment. We've got nothing but league football, so we've got a whole week. So during that week, I would argue that their training is probably a little bit more intense now. Do you know what I mean? So if they're not playing the amount of games that they want, then I would say a good coach is probably pushing them even harder in training, sort of thing. So it's a catch-22. I don't think the strike is warranted. I just think it's ridiculous that I'm trying to be from a footballer's point of view, looking at it, and I get it. And I remember talking to you about this with Dan Burn on that podcast last season, Steve, with Champions League football. He didn't realize what it took to back up. But his statement, I will never forget. That's where every footballer wants to be. Now, put Rodri in the Championship, maybe take a little bit of skill off him. You know, how many footballers want to be where Rodri is? You know what I mean? Or want to be where, you know, some of these footballers that are complaining about it they want to be. There is leagues and thousands of footballers around this world that would beg, borrow, and steal to be where they are on the money that they're on. And if they want to strike, well, maybe it's time to give some of the other kids a go.
What's your thoughts, Ted? Player striking, lots of people making comments there. Jonathan Shaw says Premier League players going on strike would be an absolute disgrace. These people are on another planet if they think they are hard done by. And Barry says Rodri gets close to 300 grand a week to play maybe 3 90-minute games of football. Oh, boo-hoo.
I agree with both 100%, to be honest. If there was any... Look, this whole debate has come about because of the increase in the number of games. But let's be honest, if there was any sort of safety concern, the amount of medical staff that you have in a Premier League football club now, one of them would have blown the whistle and went, this isn't safe for the footballers to do this. This isn't safe for other playing staff. We've heard absolutely nothing from them. They're the medical experts. Most footballers you talk to, and I know there's the rare exception, most of them that you talk to, though, they're as thick as mince. They're not medical experts. You know, the footballers for a reason. There's a reason they haven't got PhDs after their name. You know what I mean? That's not all of them, I must say. But let's be honest here. They don't know what is best for them in terms of a medical background or safety background or anything like that. Leave that to the experts. And if you're thinking about going on strike, to be honest, you're in the wrong career. Then go and work for French air traffic control or something like that, because that's about the stamp of them. But professional footballers threatening to do that,
I just look at the other sports around the world. Look at the Formula One. Formula One are traveling to different countries week in, week out, and they're moving a whole race car team. Do you know what I mean? They're in Singapore this week, and then they're probably, they're in Italy next week. Do you know what I mean? And they're moving the whole teams. And not once has a Formula race car driver who has to drive and concentrate that, and is risking their life. You know what I mean? At high speeds, not one have they gone, geez, this, hate to drive again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I liken it to that. Do you know what I mean? If we're looking at different pinnacles of sports, what about a Formula One driver? I've never seen a Formula One driver. I've never seen Max Verstappen come out and say, gee, you know what? I'd love a break. You know what I mean? The Monaco, I might skip it. It's so, and if you got to, then, because that's the question that I start asking. If you're saying that, 90 minutes of football three times a week is too much, then let's just have a look and comparison of what maybe you're on and what we're earning. You know what I mean? Because if that's fine, then let's reduce it. But then Rodri, advertisement, TV time, all that sort of stuff has to come into effect for the pay packet.
Here's your play.
Yeah, it makes sense. Thanks for your comments on that, everyone. Putting quite a few things in. Same ones who go on strike are the same ones who took the knee. A lot of them are just sheep, says Stephen. Slightly different, Stephen. I mean, that was something which was brought in by the FA, and I guess they've got to do that. But some people decided to stand against it. Jonathan Shaw says people go into debt to watch them. If they think they'll get the fan support, it would be amusing. And Roger says, panel, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought AMs think that players receive more money from sponsors than their wages. Poor bugger. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. And Barry says, there's someone who laughed out loud at it. What do Ryan and Ted think of Gordon's £190,000 left-hand drive Hummer? He must be suffering a whole week's wages.
Wow. And that right there, that I have no issue with. When you get paid for what you do, spend it however you want. Do you know what I mean? He can drive around in a Ferrari and I can enjoy the money. You're a top footballer, top of your craft, spend it however you want. But it's the complaining of doing the craft that you want. You've bled, how many of these players said, I started playing football when I was 4. I was out there practicing till the cows came home of trying to hit that top net. You know what I mean? This is the reward that they get now, right? But then to get to this level and say, oh, it's too much. That's that attitude that I think is just incorrect. But with that, for that example, spend it however you want. I wouldn't care if you rode in on a golden cow to training. Do you know what I mean? You painted it gold, pure gold, coverage of the cow. You rode it into training every day. Do you know what I mean? Golden hoofs. Go nuts. Spend it however you want. But then please note that you cannot then sit there and go, it's too much. I don't want to do it. And if you do, then for me, as I would be questioning the attitude.
What's the fascination with cows?
I don't know. It just sort of came to me today.
Cows
I don't know what's
came
going
home
on.
And riding.
I know. I mentioned cows a lot, haven't I? Let's get off cows.
Let's move on. Yeah.
Come on, Steve. Pull the other one.
In industry, there are laws to protect employees' well-being from overwork. However, why here is irrelevant. And
not my job.
Riley's crazy analogies. Yes, get used to them, Kyle. I'm sure you are. I'm going to talk about Newcastle before we look at the derby. Newcastle obviously looking to extend the unbeaten Premier League record this season to 5 games this afternoon, taking on Fulham at Craven Cottage. Not on TV as it's a 3:00 kickoff. Eddie Howe's side, as I mentioned earlier, are looking for their 3rd victory of this year at this venue. We won 2-0 in the FA Cup and we won 1-0 in the Premier League. And since a single goal defeat on the opening weekend of a championship season, 2016-17, Newcastle have won 5 successive games at Craven Cottage in all competitions. Away end is full. 2,300 away tickets have been purchased. And at Eddie Howe's press conference yesterday, he did confirm that there will be a late decision on Alexander Isak, who sustained a nose injury or eye injury last weekend. I think he said eye yesterday, but then also confirmed that he'd had a toe injury from the previous game, which could rule him out. But a late decision.
Do the nursery rhyme, Steve. Head.
So. Heads and shoulders, knees and toes. So other than that, Newcastle do have more or less a clean bill of health, apart from those long-term injuries. Jamal Lascelles, Sven Botman, Lewis Miley and Callum Wilson all remain sidelined. Lewis Miley is back on grass, but is a long way away from coming back into the first team. Callum Wilson, we hear, is going to be available after the next international break in October. So certainly Newcastle taking their time with their number 9. As for Fulham, well, Carlos Vinicius is out with a calf issue. Other than that, they have a clean bill of health. We've had a week off. Fulham did play in the Carabao Cup this week when Championship side Preston North End visited, and it was a 1-1 draw. Which then finished in an epic penalty shootout, which Fulham lost 16-15. As per league form, where Marco Silva's side had begun the season with a 1-0 defeat at Manchester United. That was followed with a 2-1 home victory over Leicester City. They've had draws then against West Ham and Ipswich. So slightly tougher opposition, I feel, than last week, but I am still feeling confident. Referee doesn't give us any worries either. Peter Banks, last game he took charge was a 2-2 draw at West Ham last year. VAR's Robert Jones. I'm going to go for a Newcastle win with this, lads. I'm going to say that Newcastle are going to come back victorious. I'm not confident about a clean sheet, despite us not conceding a massive amount of goals like we were last season. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win down there. So, Ted, how do you see this one playing out for Newcastle?
Yeah, like you say, Fulham's one of these. It's a very tough place to go. I like Craven Cottage purely for the fact that it's an old-fashioned ground. It'll be noisy. The fans are absolutely. I've just said stop milking the joke there. That's absolutely superb. That's brilliant. Listen, I do fancy Fulham for this, Steve. I've got to say it. The last couple of times I've seen them, I really like the way they pop the ball about. They're not that kind of. They've got rid of that yo-yo club image that they used to have. I think they're a team that we now have to take a bit more seriously in the Premier League. Not as like sort of a contender for European places or anything like that, but Fulham is one of these where the top sides will become unstuck a little bit, I think. They're there to spoil everyone's party. So I do see a Both sides to score, definitely. I just fancy Fulham might just edge this one today. It's just one of those games where it would be typically Newcastle to go and like sort of get all of those good results out the way with, and then just get a bit of a banana skin, like what Sunderland had last week. But I'm sure Newcastle will bounce back next week, just like what Sunderland are going to today. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Fulham.
So I'm going to bear that in mind when you do the show next week, that you're predicting Newcastle to beat Man City next week. Okay, right.
Yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting game. And I remember well last year where we saw the flying ninja kick that from the Fulham bloke that, let's see one of them again today. That'd be interesting. But look, the big question for me is, does Harvey Barnes start or not? I think he has to. I think, especially if Isak is touch and go, you start Harvey Barnes. It's going to be, it's an amazing, replacement, if not added to that team. And I think, Newcastle have still got good depth there to go. It's a tough place to go, Craven Cottage. I like what Fulham do up front. I'm not too convinced what Fulham do down back, but up front, I feel like they've got a lot of drama. Adama Traore, Borough fans, you'll know him. Adama Traore is insane, and he seems to have found another level again this season. And he's unplayable on his day. You'll see today. Adama Traore, I don't know. It's just incredible what he's doing. So I think it's going to be a tough game. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 just because I like both teams in attack. The big question for me is, it would probably push me over the line for a Newcastle win if I knew Isak was going to be fit and firing. I do think he is very, very, very instrumental to what Newcastle do in terms of holding the ball up and moving it through him and all that sort of stuff. But liking Harvey Barnes to score again today, I think they've found something again in him this season.
Great problems for Eddie Howe to have because ultimately if Isak is fit, then he's still got decisions to make in the midfield. You make a good point about Traore because that left back position is going to be interesting as well. Is he going to stick with Lewis Hall, who I think him and Tino Livramento are very similar, both young, both inexperienced, both learning their trade, and both susceptible to making a mistake. But they will get better with time, and I still think they'll be the England fullback pairing in years to come. But will he play Kelly? Maybe he will. Maybe he'll go for Dan Burns, Shaw as centre halves and go for like Kelly at left back. He may go for Kieran Trippier at right back and ahead of Tino Livramento after last week. And of course midfield. Listening to the press conference yesterday, I've got a feeling he's going to stick with Longstaff, which I can already see trolls. If Longy starts over Tonali, I'm fuming, to be honest. But I think he's already set the precedent for playing Longstaff, and I think potentially we could see the same starting 11 as last weekend, which would probably frustrate people. But it will be interesting. Let's see what happens with that. Last 10 minutes, let's look ahead to the derby. Big thanks to everybody watching. 217 of you all tuned in live. Thank you very much for supporting us. Okay, I'm going to referee, I guess, but let's go to Rye first on it.
Thank you for coming to the sensible one.
We're going to you first. We'll give Ted the option to go first at the start of the programme, so go to you first this time. Yeah. What are you expecting as far as the lineup's concerned?
It's going to be very interesting. Borough, obviously, last week, we had a bit of a changed squad because of so many internationals. Borough, for the first time, I think, had 12 internationals away during the international break. It was incredible to see. So the likes of Aidan Morris, he didn't start. Latte Lath obviously was a bit, he's still sort of in that weird sort of zone of that Ipswich thing. It's all bygones. Riley McGree was fit, but he didn't get selected. They were saying they were resting him for this game. So I'm expecting a bit of a changed lineup from Preston last week, just because we had a few boys being rested. George Edmondson, I apologise, made his debut last week, the Ipswich loanee centre back. I thought he did fantastic down back. I expect him to start again next to Matty Clark. And then I hope I see Riley McGree out there. I hope I see and then Tommy Conway, who scored last week as well. Aidan Morris needs to slot back in next to Hayden Hackney, and then the rest of the team sort of writes itself because there is a strong 11 in there. But the best thing, and the thing we didn't have last season, is the depth. We did not have depth. We were just like Newcastle United. For those that didn't pay attention last season, Middlesbrough and Newcastle shared. I mean, Steve and I were battling each day on the radio of who's got the most injuries today. Who's going to win that? And because Middlesbrough and Newcastle were running hand in hand of that. We've still got some injuries. Don't get me wrong. We've got one fit centre back out of the 5 sort of thing, but we are confident and we have got depth now. I think hopefully that we can start pushing some teams. So we need to take our chances. I'm hoping it's not a frustrating game. I think it'll take a little bit to find out. Just feeling each other out. It's the first time we're going to see, as a Middlesbrough fan, how Reggie Labrie sets up. As I said, how are you meant to understand how Sunderland play when they keep changing their manager? So it's going to be interesting. But no, look, Sunderland are where they are because Reggie has set them up so well. They're going to be tough to beat at the Stadium of Light as well. It's not going to be easy by any stretch to the means. And I'm noticeably nervous. You know what I mean? Because I beg that we can get something out of this game.
I mean, first of all, I have the big question for you, Ted, is before I ask you about the squad, is have you managed to convert one of your bars into the Lions' Den or something like that?
Hey, get him!
There's not many of them. There's not many of them travel anyway, so it's hardly worth it, really. We could just put a caravan outside and paint it red with a white stripe around it. That'll be.
Go on, then. What are you expecting team-wise?
Largely unchanged, to be honest. I know Dan Ballard was struggling a little earlier in the week, but apparently he's passed the fitness test. Like I said, Alan Brown, who's been a very good signing for us, to be honest. I think he was somebody who, when you see the amount of championship experience he's got, a good few years as a captain of Preston as well, he's going to be a miss today for sure. But I think we've got more than enough in the midfield. The one that we inevitably are going to talk about is Chris Rigg, who's just started the season absolutely fantastically well. The kid's got a tackle in him. His range of passing is absolutely superb. It's crazy that kid is only 17 years old. I think we need to enjoy having him for the next 12 to 18 months before he inevitably moves on to a Premier League club, to be honest with you. He is that good. He really is that good. I think we need to be on our cautionary side of defence as well. There's players in that Middlesbrough squad that can hurt us. I think Hayden Hackney obviously is probably the jewel in the crown, really, as far as the midfield talent is concerned. I think with that signing of Aidan Morris that you've made right, I think
you watch Captain
honestly,
America today.
He's the perfect foil for Hayden Hackney.
Oh.
He does that sort of dirty work kind of stuff, and allows Hayden Hackney to be the kind of player that he is. I think you made a brilliant signing in Tommy Conway. I think he'll go on to be an absolute bargain, to be honest. That's before we've even spoke about Emmanuel Latte-Lath, who I rate very highly. So defence-wise, we've got to be switched on today. The two fullbacks who... Sorry?
Is Ballard fit? Did he pull up?
Ballard's fit.
Yep.
Yeah, he'll start the game without a doubt. I think we've got a little bit of depth in that defence now as well. Obviously, Triantis is off to Hibs on loan, but we've got a few players on that bench now who can step in and do that. I think the two fullbacks will be crucial today for us. And Dennis Serkin, another one who's just had an absolutely fantastic start of the season. And it shows you how much we missed him last time around. When you think about the last time we played, it was with Michael Beale in charge. I know Sunderland fans, we don't want to think about this for too long, but we played it with, we talk about injuries. Well, we can play that card as well, because that was an absolute makeshift back four that we had at the Riverside last season. Listen, we've got a full strength side together now. What's that, Clark? What? I can't read your writing. Clark. New.
Bree who?
I cannot read that, honestly. You handwrite that. There's the Ben written that. You borrowed your little one's crayons, eh?
I can grab.
No, I think it'll be a strong performance from Sunderland. We need one, because we haven't played well against Middlesbrough for a long time now. Even the games we've won are kind of been, for me, a little bit unconvincing. And I just want to see a performance today that highlights how Reggie Labrie has got the lads playing for those first 3 or 4 games of the season. And let's go out there and stuff them. So I'm going to go for a 3-1 Sunderland.
It's actually the thing that I must admit, it's a different Sunderland again. I mean, it can't not be with but every game, the past 3 games that we've been together, we've seen obviously since Ted, it's every game's been a different Sunderland team because it's been a different manager. But today, it's going to be a really good test for our fullbacks because Romain Mundle, we talk about, oh, thank goodness Jack Clark's gone. I tell you what, Romain Mundle's stepped in, if not even overtaken Jack Clark already. So, Luke Ayling, 32 years old, in our right back position. We've got, the new Nito Borges, our Brazilian, in the left back, trying to sort out those left and right back roles because that's where we thought we were weak. What's going to be tested today more than ever because their left and right wing is not going to stop at all today. They are 2 young, fiery talents. And then, if they don't use the wings, then they've got the likes of Bellingham and Chris Rigg coming at you through the midfield. So it's going to be a great test to see where this squad sits because it's time now to start testing ourselves. If we want to be in the top 6, we need to beat Sunderland. If Sunderland want to stay up in the top 2, they need to beat Borough.
Just to highlight it is 1:30 here, so I am actually having a beer. Just in case anybody thinks, he's starting early.
So Ted's gone for a 3-1. Ryan, what are you predicting?
8-0, Borough.
You on the FS as well?
I'm gonna go 2-0 to Borough.
2-0 to Borough. Okay. So we've got a 3-1 and a 2-0. Both lads think they're going to win the game. It's an interesting one, this, because I think Rice spelled it out. They both need to win this game, even though it's so early in the season and there's still a hell of a lot of football to be played. This really is the benchmark for the season. Neither of these teams really are too far apart, and this has been the case for the last couple of seasons. They've been neck and neck. At times, one's been out in front of the other, and the mind the gap signs have been coming out on both sides. But they're both very, very similar teams. So I think this has got a draw written all over it. I genuinely think it's got a draw written all over it. I think there'll be goals. I think there'll be an opportunity here for Middlesbrough to get a point. So I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw.
Desmond.
Which I don't think Sunderland would be too disappointed about. It gets it out of the way and keeps them on track for that. Keeping them at the right end of the table. Results pending, of course. But keeps Middlesbrough on track as well. They'll see that as a valuable point.
I'm really excited to see Carrick versus Reggie Libri. I really am. That battle of the minds. I mean, from what I've seen and from what I've spoken to about learning from Ted, Reggie Libri's footballing mind is outstanding. And I think the same of Michael Carrick. So to see those two men go to head-to-head today, it's going to be a great battle of tactics.
Definitely, mate.
All right, lads. Well, don't forget, Invictus has got his live watch along. So jump onto there, lads and lasses, if you want to. 231 watching live today. Thank you very much. Much appreciated for your support.
Thank you so much.
Subscribe to the lads' channels as well. Ted the Macam and Invictus. And if you're a visitor to When UFC Matters as well, please give me a sub as well. We will be back next weekend. And may the best team win, lads. Good luck.
We will. Yes.
We will. Easy. 8-0.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.